Welcome to Positive Talk Radio. Our goal is simple: to explore evolving ideas one conversation at a time. So, stay with us as right now we present. I'm very excited. We get to talk to somebody who is living in the future. I have to tell you, Joseph is living for him, it is tomorrow. I know that's hard to believe, but for him, it is tomorrow, which is Tuesday. Here for us, it is Monday. And okay, I'm just kidding. He is actually from Australia, and so that's why he is a little bit ahead of us. It's 8:00 in the morning, 8:15 or 8:20 in the morning his time, and it's on the East Coast or the West Coast. It's 5:22. But that's cool because we wanted to get a hold of him and talk to him about his book because I think it can be helpful to a lot of people. And Joseph, I'm going to say this wrong, but I'm going to give it a shot. Joseph Fagarazzi.
Perfect.
Oh, hey. Well, he told me it was like paparazzi, only Fagarazzi, and so I figured that. I got that figured out. So hold on, I got to do this, and then we're good to go. And so Frank or Joseph, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
And it's great to have you here. You've written a great book. It's called Escaping My Demons. And you have led a successful life. You had 3 different clothing stores. But there wasn't always a time when you were wildly successful. And that when you were a child, you went through some tough times. And you talk about it in your book. And tell us about that.
Yes, my book is about an unwanted child that was born in 1951 to teenage children. The father would always remind the child as he grew up that he was unwanted and that he's ruined his father's life. Now, as the boy got bigger, he became a little bit rebellious and started mixing with the wrong crowd and got into trouble with the law quite often and ended up many times in and out of institutions only because he believed what his father used to tell him, that he would always be nothing and that he was a super child. And the child started believing that. So he started mixing. He had so much hate towards his father that he started mixing with the troubled children, which obviously they were missing out in love and direction as I did at the time. They weren't bad people, they weren't bad children, but they needed love and direction as I did. So that's what the book is about. It's also about explaining and teaching parents out there not to be biased. If you have 2 kids, don't be biased and show more love and attention to one of the children and not the other. I can understand it's quite easy to be biased, but to be purposely biased and doing it on purpose to hurt the other child that was born by mistake, don't blame the child from being here. You got to blame yourself because he's still your flesh and blood. So, try to understand your children, mix with them, give them the love and attention that they need, whether they will want it or not, and be there for them.
Well,
Don't forget, oh, yes, sorry.
Oh no, I was just going to ask you. So your mom and dad were teenagers
Yes,
when you were conceived,
yes, my mother was 18 when she had me.
and so she was 17 when she was conceived.
That's correct.
Were they deeply in love, or did they end up getting married because they felt they had to because you were on the way?
Now, if you in the book, it actually tells you that the reason that they got married is because of the pressure from
Uh,
family members and friends and so on. Because let's face it, in those days, 1951 was about 5 or 6 years after the World War II. So it was a disgrace for a child that age to get pregnant. So they had to do the right thing, not necessarily for them, but also for the rest of the families. To do the right thing and get married.
See, the reason I bring that up um, is because, Joseph, there are many of us, and of a certain age. Granted, we are, we're in our 50s, 60s, and 70s, but we grew up and our parents grew up in a time when it was not acceptable to be pregnant and being an 18-year-old single girl. And so a lot of our parents ended up having to get married, and because not because they wanted to and that they were deeply in love, but because they felt they had to. And what that
Correct.
happens when that happens is that it bleeds off into the kids, because as what happened to you, your dad blamed you when it was none of your fault at all. If he'd have kept his Peter in his pants,
Yes.
we wouldn't have had this problem.
That's true. Absolutely, yes. But at the same time, you don't blame the child for being born. That's
Oh
your mistake.
no. Yeah.
And if a child is born, it doesn't mean to say you have to be physical and mentally. Uh, you're affecting him physically and mentally by doing that. Because when I was a child, I was beaten quite regularly. My father was a very narcissistic type of person. He was never a happy man. He was an unhappy soul. So it not only to me, but he was also disrespectful and abusive to my mother as well. He would leave her alone all the time and be a womanizer and go out and have his flings. He wasn't a family man. He was not a family man at all. That's how it was then.
Well, and I would venture to say he wasn't a good man. Um,
No,
because he was bad, and and it's amazing to me because a lot of those things that happened he caused, and he's the one who got your mom pregnant. He's the one who didn't, and so consequently, when you had to deal with that and your mom had to deal with that, he was the cause of a lot of it, and it's a shame. And but I'm glad that you've written this book because it shows that you can escape what happens to you when you're a child, and
absolutely.
you've worked very hard at
Absolutely.
that to to
Yes.
to, to do that, and congratulations.
The book was, thank you very much. The book was written mainly to show other victims out there,
Yeah.
which I am sure there are heaps of them. I'm showing them a way and to start believing in themselves because even though the pain has been inflicted, my book is about showing them how to learn to get self esteem and carry on in life and make a better life for themselves by believing in themselves that they can do better than what their parents think probably not that they can't do. So, but the book is also about teaching biased parents out there how not to treat their children and to stand by them at all time.
Oh, exactly, and that it is amazing to me that there are adults out there, and there are many who do not treat their children well, who treat them like they are, I don't know, second class citizens, or that they're not wanted. Like as an example, in your case, and you said this to me several times that you were a mistake. Well, I'm here to tell you, my friend, God doesn't make mistakes.
Thank you. Thank you.
And now he used your parents as the vehicle to bring you into this world so that you could do what you're doing now. That's
Yes.
my humble opinion.
One thing I could say that by writing this book, at the end, it gave me a purpose in life, and it also removed that chip on the shoulder that I had, the weight on the shoulder. It made me into a different person. And I've learned not to dwell on the past, but I've learned to learn from the past and how to leave the old baggage behind, not to carry it with me in the present and in the future. So, today is today. What was there tomorrow should be left. Oh, sorry. What was there yesterday should be left there and carry on with tomorrow.
Well, and the thing is, there's not a thing you can do about yesterday. You can't go back in
Absolutely.
time. You can't fix it. You can't change it. But at the same time, you don't have to take responsibility for it because
No,
all
but
of
you
these
can
things
learn
happen.
from it.
These things happen to you when you were a kid. These happen to you not because of anything that you did. And even though you stepped off, the rails at certain points, that was all because of how you were treated when you were a kid. Um,
Absolutely.
so it wasn't your fault. It wasn't your fault. And I'm glad you wrote this book because a lot of people need to recognize that the past is gone, the past is done. Mom and dad may be here, maybe dead, but they couldn't help what they did. Doesn't matter. It's over. Now you can change the life, and you can change the life of other people, and
Absolutely.
end the what I call the 7 generation cycle. You know what that is?
No.
That's where dad beats child. Child grows up, beats child. Child grows up,
Okay.
beats child because
Repeated.
that's all they know.
Yes, it's repeated. Yes.
Yeah. And you have the
Well,
ability
I
to
had,
change.
yes, that's true. Well, if I had a child, I would not have treated my children. I would have learned from my father, to be honest, not to carry on as he did.
Yeah. Yeah. So how old were you when you decided that you were going to sit down and write this book? Yeah, this is your first book, and so you haven't done this before. But
No, I haven't.
so what
No,
made you
it
think
was,
that you could do this?
well, my sister ended up immigrating here to Australia, so I helped her to immigrate. My parents wanted me to sponsor them to come over as well to be with my sister, and that's what happened. But when they arrived, from the day that they arrived, we've had nothing but problems and arguments, and it just carried on and on and on for years. Until one day I went to see them to have a cup of coffee, and a big argument started again. And so I left their premises. I came back home, and I thought to myself, "My God, here we go again." So I sat by the table, the kitchen table, and decided to write a five-page letter to myself. And I thought, well, maybe this might be helpful. That way I could basically talk to myself. It's like looking in the mirror and talking to yourself and answering. I did the same thing. And whilst I wrote the five-page letter, when I finished, I froze it. I put it in the freezer for 11 years. I wanted to freeze my family out of my mind forever. And that's what I did. Then, of course, 4 years ago, my mother passed away. My father passed away the year afterwards, and I thought, well, this might be a good time to write the book because some of the things that I wanted to write about, my mother knew nothing about my father, so I didn't want to cause any friction at the time. But
Sure.
when my father passed away and my mother passed away, well, I thought, well, this might be a good time to get it out in the open once and for all. And believe it or not, my dreams, every time I had a dream, it was a nightmare. I would always dream about my father, still beating me up at the age of 72. And I thought, my God, how the hell can he do that? He's still beating me up at the age of 72, you know, and I still dream about him. But I was hoping that after this book it would end, but it's still carrying on. That's how it started.
Well, but how long did it take you to write the book?
Uh, on and off, I would say probably 2 years because 35,000 words had to be removed for reason of empathy. So I had to change certain wordings. So the true story might eventually come out in years to come. Who knows? But I had to remove a lot of things from it. But still, you know, I think I did okay the way it came out. I'm quite happy.
Well, with the reviews that I was reading, it's done quite well,
It
and
has.
people has have picked it up and not put it down until it's over with, and stuff like that. And there's a lot of empathy. There's a lot, people don't like to see other people get abused the way that you were abused, and they're happy when it can work out well for somebody. And I'm glad it worked out well for you.
Yes, my book has gone global now. I don't know if you know that. It's gone to at least 8 different countries. So I'm hoping America will accept my book one day.
Now we're in America, and we accept your book, so
Every,
we'll hopefully that they'll get that done.
thank you, thank you.
You are a pretty amazing fella because now how'd you end up in the clothing industry and a retail shop owner for so long?
Uh, I always wanted to get into the retail industry, the clothing business. But in the book, it tells you that when I came back from the army service, I was working in the fish and chip shop with my father to help him out. Then, of course, I met my beautiful wife, Pam, in England in 1975. And from then on, I started looking around and I got a job selling shoes. From selling shoes, I ended up eventually getting married to Pam, and we came over to Australia in '78 and worked for Tony Barlow Menswear and a few other menswear. But it was always my dream to have a menswear store. So in '85, I ended up opening my first store. I sold my first house, got my first store, and I ended up with three stores in the end. And while I had the business, I did some development. I was developing units as well, developing and selling units.
I Have you ever heard of the of Nordstrom? Are you
No.
familiar with? No, they are a big box store here in the United States. And in 1975, I was a lady shoe salesman. I was 18 years old,
Oh,
and my dad worked for Nordstrom for a long time. Uh, I, I admire you because I hated that job.
yes, yes, yes.
It was a
Well,
very hard
well,
job.
that's why I got away from shoes. I ended up going into clothes, and I loved the job. I really did. I enjoyed it.
Well, men's clothing are different than women's clothing and shoes because men walk in and they say, I'm a 12 and a half D and I like this, go get it for me. And where women go, I would like to see this, and oh, how about that? And then this, and I don't know. How about, and you spend hours and hours with women trying to make them happy. And just like my ex-wife, I never could make her happy. So it's,
Oh,
it's just one of those things. So, but I
I
also was in the
hope
food service business.
I hope she's not listening.
Uh, I highly doubt it. And if she is, hi there, ex. No, but but I also was in the food service industry, so I understand what it was like serving up fish and chips.
Yes, yes, yes. Uh, talking about fish and chips, you just reminded me of something that happened. It's probably in the book as well. I remember talking about my father. He was serving some fish and chips to a client, and he was frying chips. And for some reason, my mother annoyed my father, and it just goes to show you the type of person that he was.
Oh no!
With the hot sieve, he smashed it in her face.
Oh no.
Can you believe that type of person he was? He
No.
had no scruples whatsoever. Imagine doing this to any women,
I,
and also the mother of your child in front of him. That's terrible.
I
He was an aggressive man.
for those of you who don't know what he's talking about, it's the hot grease is 365 or 360 degrees, and it hurts and it's terrible. And I'm so sorry that your mom had to deal with that.
Yeah, yeah. We all had to. So there's more than one victim in the family. I can assure you that. But
Yeah.
hey, I'm okay now. I'm over it, and I'm very happy with my life.
Well, and by the way, you and your lovely bride have been married for how many years?
47 years.
And
40. Oh my goodness. 48 years.
you're gonna get in trouble.
48 years.
What's the secret?
Uh, true love, persistence, and understanding. And for a man, has to realize that it's a two-way street. And I've learned a long time ago that there's only one boss in the family. That's my wife.
Yeah, yeah. Have you ever heard the saying, "I do what I'm told because sometimes I get to do what I want"?
Yeah, and I love peace and quiet at home. So I just agree.
Well, it makes a great it makes for a happy home when the wife
Yes,
is happy because
yes.
what was it like when you retired? Because you were gone a lot, doing a lot of different things, and then when you retired, you invaded her house. How did that go?
Oh, I kept my distance. I I do painting as well. I'm a bit of an artist.
I saw that.
So
By
yes,
the way, I want to. I have to interrupt you here because go to Joseph and can you spell your last name for me, please?
paparazzi Fagarazzi, Joseph Fagarazzi at
Author.com.
Vicom. Oh, that's right. Yes,
And go to the gallery. I implore you, go to the gallery because on his website, you are quite a sensational painter, sir.
thank you. Self-taught.
Well, the things that these are really cool. I love the animals. Yeah, you need to. Are you going to have a gallery look at these and maybe put them up for you?
No, no. I've actually sold three or four, but I I get a little bit jealous selling my book and my paintings because once they're sold, I can't see them again.
That's true.
So so they're plastered all over my house. I've run out of room
Well,
and I
but
need a bigger shed.
you have got a lot of talent. So go to his website and look at some of these pictures or some of these pictures, paintings. They really are sensational. You've got quite a lot of talent, young man.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Well, and you fought through a lot of adversity when you were a kid, and there are got to ask you, there are people that has happened to, and they lock it into their heart and they hold it there and they keep it there for their entire lives. And every time you talk to them, they'll talk to you in what kind of victimhood they had and how hard it was for them. How did you get past that so that you don't feel like you're the victim anymore and you can let your light shine and be the truly delightful man that you are?
Well, we're all victims one time or another in our lives. And, and you also have to realize that when you're going to stop acting, I don't want to be classified as a victim anymore. I am not a victim. So I want to put it out there that I'm no longer there. But I want to help other victims out there not to be victim any longer, to move on with their lives. Because if they stop and start thinking that there are other victims out there or other people out there that have had it much worse than they have. There are a lot of hungry children out there that are suffering. There are a lot of women out there that are getting beaten up by their partners and so on. People that are getting killed out there for no reason at all, being mugged. If they start thinking about those things, they realize they're not the only victim around, and you just got to go and move on with your life. Forget about the past. Forget about what's been done to you. Just move on. Think positively, but don't keep staying in the same spot all the time, because otherwise you're not going to move on. You're not going to move on with your life, and you have to, because otherwise you'll always be sitting on the same chair, and you don't want to do that.
No, and you don't want
Your
your
bum gets sore after a while if that's the case.
yeah. Well, you don't want the people around you to feel like you're a victim, and so they're become a victim, and all of that. You got to get through it. You got to get through it, and if you can help people do that, and I think your book will go a long way to helping people get through their demons. And by the way, the name of the book is "Escaping My Demons," and I think it's a really good idea, and thank you for writing it. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're more than welcome. We're not done yet, but I just wanted to
Oh,
say thank you.
okay. I thought you were giving me the brush off.
No, 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 no. Because if we even go back farther in your childhood, weren't you given to like a convent or something from your parents?
Yes, my parents immigrated to England in London, and this was all done without actually telling me about it. So they left me in the hands of my grandmother, my father's mother, and with the intention that they've already organised a place for me in a convent. So I was in there for about a year until my father's brother, the oldest brother, came to see me at the convent, and he took me out. He took me out of there after a year. So that's in the book as well. That is quite explain. That explains where the convent was and how it all ended up, and sent me back to England.
Now, were there a lot of kids in that convent?
There was a lot of kids. Yeah, a lot of kids. There are a lot of stories there that I. One of those things that had to be deleted as well from my book. That was part of the story as well, because it's a convent that's full of priests, and there's certain stories
Oh.
there. Yes, certain stories there that I didn't want to. I didn't want to carry on with, and yeah, and it's still lodged in my mind. That you can't escape the visions. It just brings you there every so often, without just out of the blue. So it was a hard time. It wasn't enjoyable, and I wouldn't recommend it at all for any child.
Well, and this is the 50s, and
That's correct.
there was, and at that time, the stories of priest abuse and stuff were still not out there, and so it was
No.
very well hidden by the church and by other priests, and so there were kids. I know a gentleman in Vancouver, British Columbia, that was abused in a Jesuit school, and it's affected his whole life in a very adverse way. So I'm glad that you were able to get through that as well. You've had quite the ride, young man.
Yes. And all unwanted, unfortunately, but
Was
survived. But
did you
survived.
did you get to the point when you realized, and this is the point that I want everybody to get to, which is it wasn't your fault. You didn't do it. It was all done to you.
Yes. Well, it's very hard to think like that when it's happening to you
Well, yeah.
because you're always in your mind. You're thinking, well, I must have done something to activate this, you know. So, but believe it or not, until my father passed away, that was about 4 years, 3, 4 years ago. I used to hate when it was time for my birthday. Uh, when it was my birthday, my wife would always try and have a party for me. I always used to cancel the party. I was always so unhappy because I always felt that I was never meant to be there. So it wasn't enjoyable. It wasn't like a child would be happy receiving presents. Oh, it's my birthday. I'm happy about that. I was not happy about that. I hated it. Every time it was the time, the 7th of September, 1951. I used to just cancel the parties, and I was always, it was always an unhappy time for me until 4 years ago. Now I just love it. We go out for a meal, we have a party. It's a time changer. So sorry, I just wanted to point that out as well, that I always hated my birthday.
What changed in the last 3 or 4 years that now it becomes a happy occasion?
Well, it's peace, peacefulness. My parents are no longer here. There's no arguments involved. All I have to think is about myself and my wife, our happiness, and not worry about saying something that's misconstrued by your parents, and turn things around, which and for them to see something that is really not there, or saying something that is not meant to be pertained the way that they
Right.
see it.
Right.
Sometimes you got to be careful when you say something to people, and especially when you send it. It's like sending an email to someone and try to express yourself. It's very different, because if you're saying something that you've written face to face, they can actually see your face expression, so it might be more accepted. But with my parents, it didn't make any difference whether you would write something to them or whether you would say something to them face to face. They would always accept it as or taken it as an insult. So it's very hard to deal with.
Indeed, indeed. Well, I'm sorry that you had to deal with that with them, but the way that I look at it is, and I know it was a long, long, long road, but one of the things that you are able to do, and by harnessing the experiences that you had in that, you came away with Escaping My Demons, which is going to
Yes,
be a book that's going to help people. And
yes.
it's going to, you know, um, um, Joseph, I like to say that your book, somebody's going to find it. Can be in a library and a bookstore, a used bookstore, or somebody's bookshelf at home. And they're going to look at it and they're going to pick it up and they're going to read it. And it's going to change their life because you did that. And that's
Thank
why
you.
I believe that you were guided to write this book.
As long as there's a reason for the purpose, yes, I do, and it's
Yeah.
valid.
And
Yes,
the reason is that you're going to help someone. Because there are people that have no idea that what they've gone through, other people also go through. Um, so you did a fine job, laddie. Thank you so much for doing that.
thank you, Kevin. Thank you. Are you giving me the brush off now?
Not at all, young lad. Not at all.
Okay.
Although I do have to say, I would really like you to take a moment, and I like to do this at the and near the end of every show. I would love for you to take a moment and to tell our audience anything that you would like them to know.
Anything about the show itself?
Anything about anything. Yeah,
I think
this is Joseph's time to be able to talk about anything he'd like.
Okay. Right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, look, first of all, I think you are a fantastic man. You're very approachable. The show is very interesting, and this is one of the reasons that I actually got in touch with you because I listen to your show all the time. It's very enjoyable because each story it's different. It's different, and I would give you a 10-star rating if I could, but
Oh,
unfortunately, I can only give you a 5 star.
well, you're so kind.
Thank you.
And but now let's talk about you. Let's talk about your book, how they can get it, and what you got coming up next. Do you have another book planned? Or you got something in the works?
Yes, and I forgot to say, and keep watching this show. It's very important. My next book will be a sort of a motivational book to
Good.
help victims that are going through this. Now, I've already written about 50 pages. I'm not quite sure the direction that I'm going with this because I'm still doing a few changes with it. But yes, that is what I'm planning to do. Uh, and uh, and regarding the book, they can get the book through um, Amazon or otherwise on my website, which is Joseph Fagarazzi, www.josephfagarazzi, author.com. Now, there's a link in there which takes you straight to Ocean Reads. Ocean Reed is my publisher, so they can either buy the book through them or otherwise through Amazon and Gobo as well. Gobo.
And your yeah, I'm looking at your website. You can also you can purchase your copy in Australia, or you can purchase your copy in Italy by going to a couple of links. So there are many ways to get your book, and if
Yeah,
you are if you're part of a family that that you know that your family's been through some abuse and some problems with the parents and stuff, I would highly recommend that you buy this book and put it under somebody's Christmas tree. You don't need to know where it came from, but it's important because we all I feel for people that have gone through what you've gone through. But
thank you very much.
the reason I feel good, I don't feel good about it, but the reason that I can accept it is that now you've taken it to a different place to where you are now able to use your experiences to help other people um, get through theirs so they can lead their best lives. I can't think of any higher calling than that. Can you?
No. One thing I have to say is please don't feel sorry for me. Don't buy the book because you think that you feel sorry for me. Buy the book because you know that it will do good to others.
Absolutely, because it will. It it's important that we as human beings recognize that we all go through, excuse the expression, we all go through shit sometimes. And it's
Absolutely.
important that we recognize that other people have gone through the same thing and they've gotten through it onto the other side. And so it's important. And you are a shining example of that. You're a great guy, I got to tell you. Um,
Thank you, Kevin.
and
So
by
are
the way,
you.
you don't look near 72.
It's all that makeup I wear.
So what are you and your lovely bride going to do for your 50th?
Oh, I don't know. Funny enough, we were talking about it a couple of weeks ago because it was our anniversary on the 1st of July. We turned 48 years. So I would like to have a party, maybe a party, because really during a birthday, when we have a birthday these days, we don't do much. We probably go out and have a meal together, and that's about it. But for the 50th, I would like to maybe perhaps have a party somewhere with friends and colleagues and family members.
The
That would be
50th
great.
is, yep, the 50th is a big deal. Yeah,
If you were in Australia, I would invite you as well.
well, if you didn't have snakes down there, I'd come.
Okay.
or
Uh,
or or spiders that eat cats.
Spiders, yes.
So. But by the way, I highly encourage you to get the book. Joseph is a great guy. This is one of the first interviews he's done. He sought me out. I'm so glad he did. We've been working to put this together. I want to have you back on. I want to have you um, on one of the radio stations that I do, so that we can
Thank you.
hopefully sell a few books.
Thank you
But
very
the
much.
sad thing is, you're 15 hours ahead, so that means that you'd have to get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning again.
That's okay, no problem. As long as I have my cup of coffee, I'll be ready to go.
Well, I got to tell you, you're a great guy. The book is terrific, and please go get it, everybody. It will help somebody, because there's
Thank
so many
you.
people that have been abused as children, and the sad thing is that there are kids that have been abused and nobody knows that they've been abused, and they live with that and they bury it, and it affects them their whole life. And this a book like this can help. So, thank you, young man.
Can I just thank you? Can I just say that
Of course you
don't
can.
do what I did in the past by trying to work out the problem yourself. Go and see a specialist. Go and see a psychiatrist, psychologist. Go and see a professional to help you out. Because if you do it the way that I did, then you're leaving it too late. Do it while you can and see a specialist.
Oh, I agree. I agree. I keep I tell this story every now and again, and people tell me every time I tell this story, people go, "So, what'd your therapist say?" And I said, "Well, I haven't seen one about that." When I was 10 years old, I climbed up on a ladder. We had a tree in our backyard. There was a loop around the tree, and I put my head in the noose, and my brother pulled the loop
Oh,
away. And people tell me, "Do you know how weird that is?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I get, yeah, that was kind of bizarre that he would do that." And he's like, "No, did you realize that you probably got scars from that?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I probably do, but
but you came out of it okay, thank goodness.
oh yes, oh yeah, I, I had a rope burn from ear to ear, and stuff. But my brother's passed on, and I've forgiven him for all of that. So,
Uh,
but I'm here to tell you that if I hadn't, seeing a therapist for things like that happened to you when you're a kid is really really important for you to get past it. So I agree with you. Uh, Go see a therapist if you can't see your way through to get through it by yourself. Well, you can't. You need another perspective. So go see a therapist.
Definitely.
Yes, indeed. So, and now, uh, have you been seeing a therapist from time to time?
No, 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 no. My therapy was the letter that I wrote to myself.
Oh, hey, by
That
the
was
way,
my therapy.
it was in the freezer for 5 years. Did it
No, for
still
11 years. For
for
11 years.
did
Because
it?
I had no intention of writing the book at that time. So
Uh,
that was a form of therapy. And sometimes what I did also, I used to look at myself in the mirror and I used to talk to myself. So I would come out with questions and answers. So all I say is to people, do what works for you. If looking in the mirror without cracking it works out, well, that's fine. Otherwise, otherwise, write a letter to yourself.
a lot of people will tell you, therapists included, that will tell you that if you have a moment in time that really distressed you, writing it down can be a great big therapy all by itself. And then you put yours in the freezer for 11 years. When
In
you
the
pulled it
freezer.
out, could you still read it?
Well, well, I never read it after that because I started writing the book because I didn't put in the book what I wrote. So that was mainly personal for myself to make me feel better. Once I started writing the book, I threw the 5 pages away. But I wanted to make sure they were frozen stiff. So that was work. It worked well.
Oh, I gotta tell you that's funny right there. That's funny. So again, Joseph, I gotta tell you, you're an awesome dude, man. I've enjoyed talking with you, and we need to
Same
have
here.
you again.
Thank you very much.
And
So
it's time for now. Now you're retired, right? What are you gonna do for the rest?
yes, today I might do. Oh, I bought myself a little tool, a little trimmer for my hedges at the front. So I'll just do a bit of gardening today, or whatever my wife tells me to do. I just follow. I do
You,
whatever makes her happy.
you, sir, are a smart man. That and that works out really, really quite well. That was.
Thank
uh,
you.
I'm living proof that if you don't do what your wife wants, she doesn't hang around. So that's good. So, um,
Absolutely.
but I'm really glad that you are happily married. And do you know what percentage of people make it 50 years?
I know. Well, these days they don't last very long, do they?
No.
That's the trouble.
I know people that have been married for 50 years, but it's been to four different people in the
Wow. That
so
that's it's costing the man a lot of money. Alimony. I don't know. I don't know if I could afford to get married again.
and and then you've got the other thing. It's like I was a bus driver for. I'm not sure I told you I was a bus driver for 12 years.
Wow.
In between my radio career. So I was driving a bus, and now bus drivers in Seattle, they make one of the highest wages in the country for being a bus driver. So we got paid pretty well. And one day I was standing at the base and I was talking with another bus driver who was married, and I was divorced and single. And he goes, and we're talking about the number of hours he's working, and he says, I have to work 65 hours a week. And I said, why do you have to work so much? That's not healthy for you. You should, and he said, well, my wife has got certain standards of living that she wants to keep up. And so it requires me to work 65 hours a week or so. And he looked at me and he said, so how many hours do you have to work a week? And I said, whatever I want. He said, what, your wife lets you do that? And I said, no, I'm not married. He said, oh, you're not married. Wouldn't that be nice? I don't, because he was like, I'm in prison and I can't get out, and he wanted my life because I didn't have to worry about any of that. But
So did he ask for a divorce in the end?
I don't know. I think he died.
Oh,
uh,
rest in peace.
because you can, your body can only take so much, you can only work so hard, and you've got to relax and enjoy life. That's how I look at it. And I know you guys down under have got a whole different viewpoint of life than we do up here.
I don't know. I mean, we work, we pay our bills. I would have thought it'd be the same thing. No, we all have our issues and problems.
Yeah,
Wouldn't it
but
be the same?
you get to go to the pub and have a good time there. Everybody enjoys themselves.
Oh, no, I'm not that type. No, I would rather have. I would rather go out with my wife and have a nice glass of wine or a beer with some friends, have a pizza, but not pubs. I'm not a pub type of person. Never have been.
See, and that's why you've been married for 50 years. You have all the right answers. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Again, we've been, we've been talking with Joseph Fagarazzi, and he is the author of Escaping My Demons. get the book at Amazon and actually, go to a local bookseller who you like and is an independent and say, can you order me this book, please? Because
Okay.
they'll make some money and Joseph will make some money. It's important. And so Escaping My Demons is the name of the book. Go to josephfagarazziauthor.com. I think that's close. Is that close?
Perfect. Perfect.
Oh, good.
Joseph Fagarazzi, author.com. That's correct. Perfect.
And I want to thank you for being here and say hello to your lovely bride. Next
I
time I see
will.
next time I see you, I would love to meet her.
I will put her on. Yeah,
Yeah.
I will put her on just quickly. No problem. Otherwise, she'll take over. So we don't want that.
Well, that's what you get. But I would love to meet her, and I know the audience would too, because to put up with you, she must be some fine woman. No, I'm kidding. You're a good man.
Yes, she is. Thank you so much, Kevin. Thank you for having me. And guys out there, watch the show because it's a fantastic show. And I make a point of going into YouTube and check all the shows that you do all the time, Kevin. Even yesterday, actually, I was watching for a couple of people. In one in particular, a couple that was doing some videos or um, shows on a stage, singing and
Oh,
dancing.
yeah, yeah. That
You
was
know,
the Left Coast Comedy
that's
group.
it. That's the one. Yes, I was enjoying listening to that. And then, of course, I fast forward and started watching something else. So I honestly do. I watch your show all the time, and it's a great show. And of course, you're a good guy too. I have to say that.
Well, thank you, sir. By the way, there's another Aussie from down under that was on the show yesterday.
Oh, who was that?
Her name, hold on, and I can tell you real quickly. Her name, well, she was on Friday. Her name is Paula Conway, and she's in
Oh,
Australia somewhere. I'm not sure exactly sure where. But
okay.
we spent an hour talking with her yesterday. She's a delightful lady, and
Oh, I'll check the is the show on now on YouTube?
it just came up. I believe it just came up today. We just put it up on YouTube today. So
Okay, I'll have a look at it.
yeah,
I'll have a
she's
look at
a
it today.
dynamic lady, and
I will.
you and her would get along famously. So
Thank you so much, Kevin.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
You're an awesome man, and I appreciate the time, and you have yourself a wonderful, wonderful afternoon or morning.
You too. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome, and if you'll stay right there, I will be right
Yeah,
back. Hey,
no
thanks for
problem.
enjoying this episode all the way to the end. Please give us a like and subscribe to this channel. This has been a production of PositiveTalkRadio.net. Please visit our website, oddly named PositiveTalkRadio.net, for more details about us and our mission, which is to provide great positive programming designed to inspire us all. I'm Kevin McDonald, and I'm proud of these shows, and I truly hope that you'll like them and share them with friends and family. So on behalf of our entire team, remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we got.